Good afternoon and welcome to a rain-soaked Silverstone Circuit for the British Talent Cup. Round 6. This is what happened last time out at Brands Hatch. Much different conditions, of course, in race 2 last time out over in Kent. And it was Evan Belford who launched from pole position and just ended up streaking away, as he has so often does in 2023. A good battle for second raged on behind, though. Manuel Brinton, his first time in the British Talent Cup this year. Unfortunately, his race would end prematurely with a crash. The number 7 and the chasing group. There is Emmanuel Brinton's crash down there at Brands Hatch. Luckily, he was able to walk away from that, but it was the number 52 of Belford who yet again won. After crashing in race 1, remember, bounced back well on Sunday to win. As I was saying, Evan Belford bounced back to win spectacularly again by 8 seconds last time out in the dry conditions at Brands Hatch. What a victory for the number 52. McCabe and Mountsie put on a brave fight as well to take podium places over at Brands Hatch, but attention's now turned to Silverstone, and as you can see, conditions aren't great, unfortunately. Heading into the day, as we have a look here, number 65 machine, that's Alexander Rowan. What's happened to Alexander Rowan then on the outlap? He was a podium finisher in the wet conditions over at Brands Hatch, so has he had a mechanical issue or a crash on the outlap? Hopefully wait to find out. Good to see him walking away at least. Can he get back round to the grid though? But yeah, my name's Elliot York. Alongside me in the commentary box is my good friend and colleague Liam Hodgins. Liam, I'm excited for this one. Unfortunately, conditions haven't really gone our way at all today. Dry conditions yesterday, wet weather today, but thankfully it looks like we're going to get a race on.
Yes, good afternoon, Elliot. Good afternoon to you watching from home, from wherever you are in the world. And yes, the conditions today, well, it could be summarised as being a little bit erratic. We've had about 4 seasons in one, as we normally have in the United Kingdom as well. And as we can see, the rain is continuing to fall around this glorious Silverstone Circuit. I was hoping it would be August summer's day, but unfortunately it is not. And as we can already see, come a cropper already has been Alexander Rowan. I had him down in my notes as one to watch today with rain conditions, because as you said, he finished 3rd place at Brands Hatch in race number 1, so disastrous already for the number 65 rider. I'm not sure if it was a crash. It didn't look like there was any scuffs on the bike or on the leather, so yeah, if it's a technical issue, then that's disastrous for Alexander Rowan, who would have been going from P18 on the grid.
Yeah, hopefully we get more information soon, as you can see some of the riders making their way around to the start-finish straight. Of course, this weekend at Silverstone, we're using the Hamilton Straight and the new wing complex. Well, it's not that new anymore, is it? Great to see the fans out in force.
Future world champion there.
Yeah, absolutely. The kids out there enjoying themselves. They don't mind the conditions too much, do they? Some fans have stayed to watch the British Talent Cup. Good to see them in the grandstands and all around the circuit. They've done very well to stick it out for today. Yeah, we were hoping for August weather. I mean, you could say this is August weather for the UK, couldn't we?
100%.
We're used to it, of course, coming from the United Kingdom. But yeah, it's going to set to be an intriguing race, because yesterday, on Friday, the 2 practice sessions and in qualifying, it was dry. So this is the riders' first time out in the wet conditions on this Silverstone circuit this year. So yeah, they need to use the outlaps. You might have seen some of the riders pile into pit lane, come through pit lane and do a couple of outlaps. They are allowed to do that until pit lane closes, so the riders getting a feel for conditions early doors, which is obviously very sensible.
It's a very daunting prospect, isn't it, heading out on circuit for the first time this weekend in wet conditions. Thankfully though, a lot of the riders have been, well, they have turned a lot of laps around this circuit here in Silverstone. Usually the Silverstone National Circuit, which they used back in April for round number 1. It was bone dry back then, but unfortunately not so much here today. So it's going to be Battle of the Brave in the British GP here today for the British Talent Cup, as well as we see some of the riders that feel pretty confident already on the grid, as we saw a gaggle of them head through the pits for a second setting lap earlier on.
Yeah, they're going to be used to the wet conditions in general general on these Honda 250 Moto 3 machines that have been racing all year, of course. Some of them have been racing on these machines for a number of years now, and obviously racing in Britain alongside the British Superbikes mainly. They're obviously used to wet conditions, but of course getting used to the conditions at a different circuit is important. But yeah, good to see some of the riders looking relaxed on the grids. Obviously they'll be a little bit nervous for what might come, but yeah, it's great for them also to be racing alongside some of their heroes in the MotoGP paddock. Of course, this is where they want to be in the future, racing in the Grand Prix paddock, eventually hopefully get into MotoGP. This is what the British Talent Cup's all about.
Yeah, this is exactly what they're here for, to impress some of their future team bosses, they hope. It doesn't matter if you impress a couple of riders, because they're not the ones that sign the contracts. So you need to impress some of the riders up and down the grid, starting off with some of the Moto 3 teams. For example, the Vision Track team as well, that is that has a British champion in their garage under the form of Taylor Mackenzie, who also has a couple of riders here in the class, along with the likes of Ollie Walker, who is another one to look out for, because he featured very well in Brands Hatch, finishing 5th place in race number 1 in the wet conditions as well.
There is Evan Belford then pulling up to P1, claimed pole position yesterday by a couple of tenths over Emmanuel Brinton. The only other rider within a second of Belford was 3rd place Sullivan Mounsey. So we didn't get to watch qualifying yesterday, Liam. I was keeping a keen eye on live timing, as we always do, and it was dry, so it's difficult. It's always difficult to tell what the tactics were and what sort of lap times they were doing and what went on in qualifying without being able to watch it. But again, Evan Belford, the number 52 rider, championship leader, of course, just proving yet again how strong he is.
Best of British Talent Cup is Evan Belford so far this year. 5 wins so far in 2023. If he makes it 6th here today, he'll be only the 3rd rider in history to take 6 wins in a single season. The 2 previous people to do that were Casey O'Gorman and Johnny Garness, our previous 2 British Talent Cup champions. Also, if Evan Belford wins here today, that'll take him up to 12 wins in British Talent Cup. That'll move him into a clear 2nd in history, just 2 behind Johnny Garness, who leads away on 14. So Evan Belford is the one to be chasing this year. He's not really put a foot wrong at all in 2023, apart from the last time we had wet conditions at Brands Hatch in race 1, chasing down the podium battle, and he crashed out at Clearways Corner, the final corner at Brands Hatch. So fingers crossed there'll be no mishap from Evan Belford here today.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Of course, the rain's a bit of a leveller across all classes, really. But obviously, in the British Talent Cup, the riders are all racing the same machinery. So when the wet weather does come, it's all about rider feel, how they're feeling in the conditions. Some riders will cope with it better straight away. Some riders build themselves into the race, just like Belford did at Brands Hatch race 1, and I think he was a couple of seconds quicker on that previous lap before he caught
pushing a bit too much in that one,
battle,
yes.
and then obviously went down in what you rightly say is probably, well, it is his only real costly mistake. But then, of course, he bounced back a day later to claim a dominant victory. So
absolute domination the next day from Belford. I think the gap was roughly about 8 seconds, which is one of the biggest gaps we've ever had in British Talent Cup history. So when he gets out clear in the front, he's a bit like Jorge Lorenzo in many ways, is Evan Belford. Really calm, really smooth and silky. Just a wave to the camera there from Rhys Stevenson as well. Rhys Stevenson has had a bit of a tough season so far this year. 4 podiums in 2022, really found his feet again here at Silverstone GP Circuit 1 year ago. He'll be hoping for more of the same. He's just bouncing back from a broken wrist, which he suffered in race 1 at Knockhill when he was in the fight for the victory, but unfortunately came a cropper at Taylor's hairpin. So fingers crossed that Rhys Stevenson can bounce back here today. But anyway, here's the grid. Evan Belford on pole position, just a couple of tenths ahead of Emmanuel Brinton, and Sullivan Mounsey has the 2 closest challengers in the championship. Rhys Stevenson, we're just talking about him there. He goes from the front of row number 2 ahead of Lucas Brown and Harley McCabe. Watch out for Harley McCabe going from 6th spot. Harrison Dessau, your former championship leader, goes from 7th ahead of his teammate Julian Carrere and Ryan Frost. On row number 4 we have Ollie Walker, Philip Surwick and Mackay as well in the number 61 machine. Alfie Davidson's next up in 13th, and then behind him is Peter Wills and Josh Bannister rounding at the top 15. Ronnie Harris next up in 16th ahead of Charlie Huntingford, Alexander Rowan, who we did see come a cropper on the sighting lap, so he probably will not be taking part in the race here today. Ahead of Eli Banish, Ben Jolliffe and Scott McPhee, the Waze McPhee, cousin to John. Watch out for him as well, he's very good in wet conditions. And then we've got Clayton Edmonds, Plipenko, Daniel Goodman, George Bowles, Charlie Barnes, Luca Hopkins, and rounding out the runners and riders in 28th spot is Ewan Jones.
Here we go then, the riders are all set for the first race here at round 6. It's going to be an intriguing battle indeed. We saw at Brands Hatch last time out that some riders were able to get down to business straight away and pull a gap at the front. This is a different kettle of fish though, a completely different circuit to Brands Hatch is Silverstone. The full Silverstone circuit, of course, we've been here previously at the start of the season, but only used the national circuit. So this is new territory this year, at least for the riders. Some of them, most of them have been around this circuit plenty of times before. You can see there on the grids, there's a little bit of commotion in the background. Can't quite see what the issue is back there for one of the riders. That's Correa getting the handshakes and good looks from his team. We're nearly set to go. It's going to be Liam.
One of the riders coming off the grid, sorry to jump in there, Elliot. I think that's Scott McPhee. So another rider we're waxing lyrical about on the number 19 machine. So Scott McPhee, he's clearly got a technical issue as well. He's coming off the grid. So disastrous there for the young 15-year-old Scotsman from Oban. So he's also carrying his own starter motor as well. So really helping out his mechanics there. So he'll be trying to get that started as quickly as possible and try and rejoin at the back of the grid. So disaster there for McPhee.
That happened at Brands Hatch as well. He crashed on the outlap over in Brands Hatch as well, didn't he? So luckless run continues for Scott McPhee. I was just about to say, Liam, this warm-up lap, all warm-up laps are crucial for the riders to get a feel of the circuit, especially when it's in these conditions. But yeah, this warm-up lap is going to be crucial. It's a long lap here at Silverstone. In the dry, they're doing sort of 2:19, 2:20s, the fastest riders. So in the wet conditions, we haven't obviously had wet times yet. So it's going to be a long 10 laps. It's going to be an intriguing 10 laps. And like I say, this warm-up lap is going to be crucial for the riders just to keep learning and seeing where the grip is.
You're right indeed, and from a few of the camera angles there, it looks like some of the track isn't that wet, to be honest. It's a little bit in most places, but there are no puddles that we can see. There's not a lot of spray, or if any, getting kicked up by these Honda 250R machines going through the circuit at all. So the riders are really going to have to look for damp patches across the track, especially when this race gets going, just as we see under the bridge there. So going through the puddles to really cool off the tyres, because if those tyres start heating up, they'll start chewing up, and it'll be whoever can hold the tyres in the best way without chewing them up will come to fruition towards the end of this 10 laps.
There's a look at the Cup standings then on your screen. Belford leading the way by 62 points from McCabe. Mountsie is in third place, a further 66 points down. And then Emmanuel Brinton and Correa round out the top 5, 79 and 84 points down. So that's how much an advantage Belford has at the top of the standings. He really has been in dominant form as the number 52 on the red machine, but anything can change in motorcycle racing, especially in these conditions. I actually think, Liam, from earlier today, throughout the day, the recent rain after the Tissot sprint in MotoGP and the Moto E has probably helped them, because we saw a dry line appearing, didn't we?
We did
the
indeed.
MotoGP sprint.
Yeah, it was becoming very interesting towards the end of the Tissot sprint in MotoGP, as you say, with the dry line starting to appear. However, as the Moto E bikes were on track, it started raining a little bit heavier. So it's really, some of these conditions are really the worst for a rider, because you don't know too much about the track conditions. As we are saying, there's a bit of drizzle in there, a very, very, very summer's day in the United Kingdom. So, but the thing is, the track temperatures aren't that warm today, so that will be helping the track stay a little bit wet. So that could really play into the hands of the British Talent Cup riders to know exactly how to play the conditions here today.
Yeah, luckily the rain doesn't look to be intense at the moment from our TV screens. See spots on the camera lens there, but it doesn't look too bad. I remember Jake Dixon saying earlier on today, when the conditions were really pretty treacherous out there, he said the grip is fantastic at Silverstone. So that's good news. As there we see Scott McPhee on the number 19 machine making his way round to the grid. I think he'll have to start from the back of the grid. Yeah, he'll pull his way around to the back of the grid. Good to see though that they've got that machine up and running as the riders peel then onto the start line.
Yeah, it was very interesting there. Evan Belford just coming up to the grid there, pulling a bit of tape potentially off of the radiator, feeling that it's kept the heat in it enough, so he's pulled that off for the start of the race. We've seen that plenty of times from riders in the well, in any championship. There's a great story about Ayrton Senna doing that in some four-wheeled racing, and Martin Brundle seeing him climbing out of his car to pull off some tape from his radiators. As you see Reece Stevenson doing the same thing as well. So all the riders are ready and waiting for the start of race number 1 here today for the British Talent Cup at Silverstone.
The Belford there just looking behind him, just looking behind the chasing pack. The chasing pack know that they need to beat Evan Belford today to stand any chance, really, of getting themselves back into the title hunt. The red lights are on, and we are underway for British Talent Cup race 1 here at Silverstone. It looks like a good start from the outside of the front row from Mountsie. Pulls in behind the 52 of Belford. It's going to be Belford who takes the whole shot into turn 1. As Mountsie then goes around the outside at Farm Curve, turn 2. What a move that is from the number 4. He does take the lead in the early exchanges. Remember, Mountsie was class in the wet at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, he absolutely was. Really found the conditions to his liking, finding confidence in the early laps back in Brands Hatch, and he's doing the same so far here today in Silverstone as well. As we've got Lucas Brown climbing all over the back of Emmanuel Brenton, who's in 3rd spot. Brenton is one of the riders that doesn't really like the wet conditions too much, spending a lot of time over in Spain in the European Talent Cup over the last few seasons. But Evan Belford and Sylvain Mounsey already as they come across the time monitor, a 9/10 of a second gap as Belford just slots back into second. A great start further back for the likes of Harley McCabe and Harrison Desoy as well.
Into the Brooklands and Luffield complex for the first time. The top 2 already streaking clear, nearly a second clear of the chasing pack. Emmanuel Brinton was up into 3rd place. He still is there, Emmanuel Brinton, the number 43. As you rightly say, Liam, he's used to the warm temperatures of Spain and Portugal in the European Talent Cup. This is his first season in the British Talent Cup, and he isn't used to this cold, wet weather, but he's going well so far early in this race as the pack already start to streak out.
Yeah, Julian Correa, another rider that's had a cracking start. The American, he's already up to 4th spot, so watch out for the number 40 on the Mercury's Cresswell Racing Team. There he is on screen just ahead of Lucas Brown and Reece Stevenson as well, as they plummet into Maggots and Beckers for the first lap. But already you've got Mounsey and Belford as fast as you like. Away they go. It's almost up to, it is 2.5 seconds as they start sector number 4 ahead of Sullivan Mounsey. So Sullivan Mounsey already has Lucas Brown and Julian Correa already on the back of him, as well as these two at the front already streak away.
This is absolutely phenomenal from the top 2. Evan Belford just knows he just has to stick with Mounsey, the number 4 rider. He's leading the championship by some way. Mounsey in 3rd place in the championship. Obviously has to beat Belford, but Belford's just doing what he can do. If he finishes 2nd, that's absolutely perfect. A long way to go, of course. We've not even completed 1 lap yet as we delve down into Vale chicane for the first time. Mounsey leading Belford. I'm intrigued, Liam, to see what this gap is over the line. 3.6 seconds at this moment in time. It just looks like it's creeping up and ever more as we cross the line for the first lap. It's Mounsey from Belford.
It's absolutely huge, the gap between the first 2 and then back to 3rd is 4.5 seconds. Can you believe it? The gap is as big as you like for the front 2, and Brenton already has Brown and Correa and Stevenson, and it's 3 abreast through Abbey into Farm as well. Round the outside goes Emmanuel Brenton on Lucas Brown. Can Julian Correa make a late lunge up the inside? No, he can't, because Lucas Brown does it on Emmanuel Brenton into Village. Great move there from the number 29 rider. So the number 29, who also features in the European Talent Cup as well. He'll be not used to these conditions, as you don't get much rain, as we said on lap 1. We were talking about Emmanuel Brenton as well. So Emmanuel Brenton there, this is a good first championship prospects, because he's already slipping down to 4th spot, but he's trying to fight back. 3 abreast as they come along the straight in towards turn number 5, and it's Emmanuel Brenton and now Lucas Brown from Julian Correa.
Yeah, good battle unfolded then for the final podium positions, but you can see already the gap is increasing ever more. 5 seconds, well no, 5.9 seconds, sorry, nearly 6 seconds through the first split. The top 2 are just competing on a completely different level so far early in this race. 1.5 laps gone as Evan Belford then, the number 52, strikes for the first time, takes the lead up through Cops Corner, turn 9, the old turn 1. We're using, of course, the new pit straight now down at the Silverstone wing. So this Cops Corner, the fast right-hander, is turn 9, but Mounsey's going to bite straight back.
Cracking move from Mounsey there. Round the outside into Maggots and Beckers. You don't usually see that. Only the bravest of brave can do that, and Mounsey is one of those riders as well. So this is a cracking little scrap going on for 1st to 2nd, and that's what we really need, as the rain looks like it continues to fall a little bit heavier as the top 2 make their way onto the hanger straight. Into the slipstream comes Evan Belford. Can he retaliate, or will he sit behind? No, he won't. He ducks out of the slipstream around the outside already before they get to Stowe, and later on the brakes for Mounty. But for now, it looks like it's Belford. Steady as you like, Evan, because this is where he crashed out of race number 2 1 year ago.
I cannot tell you how impressive this is from the top two, and I'm more impressed with Belford that he's just getting his head down and doing this. He's the championship leader. He's got everything to lose really in this race, but if he's feeling confident, feeling comfortable, then you might as well push on and try and streak a lead out and try and win the race. Of course, he's used to winning races in the British Talent Cup as Evan Belford this year, but I bet the number 4 of Mounty is not going to want to let him streak clear, because he knows that he's got to try and beat him to claw back that title advantage. Gets a little bit close down into turn 1.
It's on lap number 3, but we're getting a cracking scrap for the lead here. 2:32.1. That's about 12.7 seconds off of Evan Belford's pole position time, so there's still a bit to go, and the track is still wet enough for these British Talent Cup machines and the wet tyres, so that's a good thing. But there is a huge gap. This is really telling. 71 points if it stays the way it is, with Sullivan Mounty moving up into second in the championship ahead of Harley McCabe. Harley McCabe is struggling back in 6th spot. He is a couple of seconds off the battle between Brinton and Correa and Brown as well, so we just saw him coming out onto the straight in the background out of Aintree Corner.
They're nearly 10 seconds clear after 2 and a bit laps.
Crazy.
These two at the front. They've already pulled out another 6 tenths on this opening sector as well, so these two really are operating on a completely different level. It doesn't look like they're going to get caught unless the riders behind really start to get a feel for these conditions, and they do start scrapping. As I say that,
bit of a
Belford
wobble there.
gets a little bit of a wobble through Woodcut. That's one of the corners where you don't really want to get out of shape on this fast and flowing Silverstone circuit.
No, if there's any corner you do not want to crash on, as you said, Elliot, it will be Woodcote Corner. And oh! Big hit there from Mounty and Belford, both going for the same line, as Belford throws his arms up in the air and gesticulates towards Mounty as well. Both were very lucky to stay on board the machines. That could have been huge from your 2 race leaders.
Wow, we were saying about Sullivan Mounty not wanting to let Belford get clear. He's made his intentions very, very clear. We're going to get a replay of this then. So through Copse Corner we go, all nice and clean through there. But Mounty on the number 4 machine gets a fantastic drive out of Copse. Belford gets on the curb and obviously loses a bit of drive, and Mounty just comes through, and Belford doesn't really see him up his inside, and they come into contact. Thankfully they're both on the straight and narrow, but this is a spectacular battle for the lead. Obviously Belford not pleased, as you can probably understand, waving his hand up. Yeah, luckily both riders are still upright. That was too close.
Yeah, Belford apportioning all the blame right in front of Sullivan Mounty, as Mounty gets a cracking run out of Club Corner there along the straight and into turn number 1. Who will be last of the late breakers? Will be Mounty, I think, was already well and clear ahead as he sets the new fastest lap of the race. It looks like the rain has already just sort of eased off ever more, and the lap time just now starting to come down even more as it came across the line last time round, and the gap was 9.8 seconds ahead of Julian Correa, the American from Florida, who must be thinking these conditions are far cry from what he's used to back home in the USA. But for now, it's still Mounty that leads away from Belford.
It is. These two riders are set fastest lap times of a 2:30. Well, Belford set a 2:32.1, Mounty set a 2:32.8. No one else is in the 33s, no one else is even in the 34s. A 2:35 is the next fastest lap. This just goes to show how dominant these two are in these early exchanges. 10 seconds is the lead for the duo now as we cut back to the number 7 of Harley McCabe, a title challenger, of course. He's sitting second, well, not as things stand. Before the race, he was sitting second on the green machine. A little bit of a lonely 6th place so far for Harley McCabe. He's 14 seconds down on the victory fight and 3 seconds down on 5th place Emmanuel Brinton as things stand as we cut back to the leaders. Copse Corner it is again. Hopefully we don't get a repeat of what happened last time around. Belford will try and stay off the curb this time around. Yes, he does. So no such incident there this time around, but it's very, very close. Mounty really is taking it to Belford, but that's exactly what he's got to do.
Yeah, Mounty is really starting to mount a challenge on Evan Belford here today, really making him think for it. And this is great to see from Belford, who has a huge gap already in the championship, but he's feeling like he can fight with Mounsey and go with him as well, and he's really putting up a fight no matter how much it could scupper his championship if he goes down through the murk and the spray, down the hanger straight into Stowe corner they come. Belford still leading the way, Mounsey just keeping his powder dry for the moment there. And I just want to draw your attention to one of the riders further back, Scott McPhee, who we did see have a technical problem. He's already within the top 20 there, almost in the points, so he's hoping to score more points in what has been a very good middle part to his season as well. So coming from the back of the grid, Scott McPhee already up to 18th and chasing some points as the Raiders tick off another lap. It's starting to look a little bit more dark and gloomy out there, Elliot. I say that, but Belford already sets another fastest lap, so really just putting me in my place when I think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, 2:31.018 then for Belford. He's got a little bit of an advantage now over Mounsey in second place, but I think they've probably just tried to calm things down a little bit. Mounsey clearly sees that Belford has got some good race pace. They'll have seen the pit boards now, know they're miles clear of the chasing pack. It's up to 15.7 seconds to third place Lucas Brown, who is on course for his third podium of the season. But we're going to focus in on the fight for the win because this is intriguing. 5 and a bit laps to go, not quite half race distance yet. We will be when we cross the line next time around. It's a long race here in the British Talent Cup, especially in these conditions. They've got the whole Wellington Straight to themselves. It's not another rider in sight.
A whole county ahead of the rest of the field because, of course, Silverstone does cross 2 counties in Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, so they've got a full county to themselves to do the top 2. It just looks like Belford is starting to ease out a few tenths of an advantage over Mounsey, so this is something Mounsey really doesn't want to see. Belford has really just clicked into his groove now, starting to hit his apex as the track does appear to just be settling into the conditions ever more, and that almost looks like it's up to about 6 or 7 tenths of a second as it comes through Copse corner, as we see a replay of Evan Belford looking at his pit boards as his eyes are glued to the apex of turn number 1. It's always fascinating with these clear visors, isn't it, Elliot, just to see the focus, the concentration of the riders.
Yeah, we do love a dry race, of course, but the wet weather does allow us to see the riders' eyes and see what they're really doing on the bikes and see them at the best. You can see actually there, Liam, the rain, sideways rain coming in. We've had a storm in the UK today. Storm Antonio, I think, Anthony.
I think it may be one of those.
Yeah, one of them anyway. But yeah, we've luckily dodged the worst of it. But yeah, conditions really are not good out there, which makes this the ever more impressive. We're going to keep banging on about it because it really is superb from these two. 15 seconds still up the road from the chasing pack. Just as I thought Belford was going to start pulling clear of Mounsey, it looks like the gap has stabilised on this lap at least. It'll be interesting to see what lap times they do set when they come across the line as they come through Club Corner, turn 18. Across the line, 5 laps to go, half race distance. As the battle for P3 heats up, that's Emmanuel Brinton. Nearly 6 foot is Emmanuel Brinton, a really, really tall rider, and you can tell by the way he hangs off the little Honda machine. He makes it like a mini moto, doesn't he, Emmanuel Brinton? Up into third place ahead of Correa, and that's Lucas Brown in 5th place now.
Yeah, Julian Correa looking to come back at Emmanuel Brinton into Abbey Corner. Just stays where he is right now, but it's funny you should mention the size of Emmanuel Brinton, one of the taller riders in the field, but I had to laugh at the picture of, here we go again, the move into Vale from Emmanuel Brinton, as clean as you like, late on the brakes, very clean, and demote Julian Correa down to 4th position as well. Really hanging off that bike, a bit like Spider-Man as he goes through the club chicane around this Silverstone Circuit. Cracking slow-mos in the wet conditions here as well as we look back towards the battle for 3rd spot. Julian Correa really isn't giving this one up down the Wellington Straight and into Brooklands, but for now we just hold station. But I was mentioning the size of Emmanuel Brinton. I had to laugh at the picture taken with the British Talent Cup riders alongside the MotoGP riders in the press conference on Thursday. Every single one of them was taller than your top 3 in the championship, and Pecco Bagnaia, Jorge Martin and Marco Bezzecchi as well.
Yeah, that was a funny picture. As Mounsey then sets the fastest lap of the race. It did see on our timing screens that the gap was a couple of tenths. It's a little bit more than that. It's more, probably about 3/4 of a second. We'll check once they come through the next split. They're incidentally now nearly 20 seconds clear of that battle we were just focusing on for third place. Mountsie, as you can see there, setting the fast lap of the race just by 10th though over Belford. So these two really still operating, well, completely different playing field. Brinton set a 2:32 last time out, with Mountsie setting a 2:29, just ahead of Belford on a 2:29.8 as well.
Is that Julian Correa?
Crash. It does look like it is Correa who's crashed out of the podium battle. It is the number 40, the American Julian Correa, has unfortunately crashed out. Can't quite tell where that is. I think it's probably coming into the Maggots and Beckett's area.
I think you're right there, Elliot. It looks like it may be from that camera angle of Maggots and Beckett's. They were 20 seconds behind the race leader, so I can imagine it was.
Yeah, it is.
And he just gets a bit of a wobble on, does he, coming into the Beckett's? Yes, he does. He just loses the front there. Such an easy mistake to make in these conditions when you really are teetering on the edge of brilliance and disaster. And unfortunately for Julian Correa, he fell on the wrong side of that and onto the disaster side, as we've got another Belford's down. He lost the front, almost held it. Mark Marquez still, but that's Belford, your championship leader, out of the race. Down and out. That's left Moundsy at the front of this race as he tries to pick the bike back up. He was pushing on last lap. Come on, Evan, you can get it up. He has done, but that's a disaster for your championship leader.
It looks like he can't get the bike restarted as well. It looks like there's too much damage on the left-hand side of that Honda machine. If he could have got it up straight away and got back on, he probably would have still been in second place. Such was the advantage. But Evan Belford then, he's furious. Of course he is. He's just cost himself a potential another 25-point haul, and it's coming through turn 2 of Farm. Oh, he just gets it out of shape coming through the Farm curve on the left-hand side. Does try to save it. Looks like he might have saved it. And then another little wobble, and he goes down the road. Let's have a closer look then. It's a classic Silverstone crash, isn't it? We saw a couple of Moto2 riders go down here on Friday afternoon in the dry conditions, let alone in the treacherous wet conditions. And yeah, Belford just slips out of contention. He tried so hard to keep that upright, but it wasn't to be. Drama then here in the British Talent Cup.
It looked like he's just lost the front ever so slightly as he went across the white line on the apex of Farm Curve, but just speculation there, but maybe it just unsettled him ever so slightly. He really was pressing on. He had opened up that gap to around about a second over Sullivan Mounds, but once again in the wet conditions, Sullivan Moundsy is keeping his head nice and clear, and all he can see is clear track in front of him and 20 odd seconds back to the chasing pack of Brown and Brinton. So Sullivan Moundsy is on for another win. That'll be two in a row in the wet conditions after Brands Hatch race number 1, and as long as Moundsy stays on, he will be eating right into Evan Belford's championship lead. Big time.
Yeah, the gap will be down to 41 points ahead of race 2 tomorrow afternoon, an hour earlier than it starts today at 4 PM local time. What we're going to get a replay of here, this is Mountsy then coming out of turn 4 of the loop. Oh my
that
goodness
was
me.
Huge. Almost threw it down the road as well, just like Belford did. So he's luckily he has a 20-second lead, or the others would have been hounding all over the back of him by now.
So that's just after Belford had crashed down at turn 2, and Mountsy would have obviously seen that because Belford was in front of him, and then he's come through the loop down at turn 4, just got a bit too trigger happy on the gas and very, very nearly got flicked over the top. That would have been, it was drama anyway, that would have been incredible drama with both race leaders going out in quick succession with a 20-second lead. As it is, Sullivan Mountsy did do very, very well to stay on his Honda machine and keep the lead, and it's still 19.7 seconds even after that huge, well, save, let's call it. It was a save, wasn't it?
Yeah, his lap time was only 2 seconds slower than the chasing pack that lap time round, so not really much of a difference as well. Harley McCabe we're looking at, he's another rider that's going to benefit from Evan Belford crashing out, as we see there, 49 points, just under 2 race wins behind Evan Belford in the championship will be Harley McCabe, as he's trying to close in on the battle for second spot. He was a couple of tenths, he was 4 tenths of a second quicker than Emmanuel Brinton last time round, so just keep an eye on the number 7 on the green machine, just coming into shot now as Lucas Brown looks over his shoulder down the Wellington Straight. That's going to allow Emmanuel Brinton to come alongside, and as they head into Brooklands Corner, he's well and clear ahead.
Yeah, down into Brooklands then we go. The battle for second raging on, second and third. These two are going to be very, very hungry to finish second in this race. It's going to go down to the wire, this, I can feel it. 2.5 laps to go. The gap up front, Mountsy to this chasing group is still 19 seconds. It was hot in mouth moment for us, and I'm sure the fans watching trackside and on TV as well I can't imagine what the team would have been like seeing Mountsie get flicked over the top of his Honda like that when he's got a 20-second lead.
Yeah, I can imagine the team will be onto the pit boards already, just telling Mountsie to calm down, telling him the gap just to, even if he knocks it back by about 5 seconds a lap, he's going to be absolutely fine as he's so far ahead of this chasing battle as well. And you're just talking about the crowd there. Great to see so many of them sticking around for the British Talent Cup here today. They've been treated to a masterclass from Mountsie at the front, and this battle for second still raging on. It could go any way as Harley McCabe just closes in ever so slightly by another couple of tenths of a second, but I fear that Harley McCabe might not have enough in his locker to close in on time. As you can see back there, he's just coming underneath the Tiso bridge on the Hanger straight, but into Stowe they come. Mountsie just opening up a little bit of advantage over Lucas Brown with 2 and a bit laps to go, as Mountsie will be coming across the line. Wonder what the gap is going to be up to now. You could easily take a seat, have a cup of tea, and wait for the rest to catch up to him before he can start going again.
Yeah, he doesn't want to relax too much. You think, I would hazard a guess, he might have just lost a little bit of concentration, when he came out of turn 4 there, obviously seeing the race leader crash out, knowing he's got a big gap, and was probably trying to work out how much to push and how much to not push. But when you've got a lead like that, and when you're in the groove, the best thing you can probably do is just keep going, keep pushing, because we heard from, I think it was Jake Dixon in practice 3 of Moto 2 in the wet conditions. As soon as he was at the end of the session, he said when he rolled off, that's when he crashed, as we see a move down into Village.
That's a lunge.
That's a lunge and a half, yeah, of number 29 of Lucas Brown on Emmanuel Brinton. Brinton won't have liked that. Is he going to retaliate like he did last time around? Look at the action there from Brinton. Absolutely spectacular from the number 43 rider, and he's got a fantastic run, I think. Yes, he has, down the Wellington straight. Lucas Brown tucks into the slipstream, trying to probably make a move down into Brooklands turn 6, but no can do. Or is he going to go around the outside? What a move from
Lucas amazing.
Brown. Sweeps around the outside of Brinton. Brinton wouldn't have been expecting that. So these two are to-in and fro-in, and all this to-in and fro-in is allowing McCabe to pull it back in. It was 3 seconds over the line, yeah. Manuel Brinton probably knows it, just takes a quick look around his shoulder before just powering around the outside of Woodcote, as you do. That's just a normal thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no orthodox overtakes going on here between the two. They're just taking every line they can find around the outside, and it's once again Emmanuel Brinton back into second. And as you said, Elliot, McCabe is closing the gap. He was 1.3 seconds faster than this battle going on for second, because they're just carving each other up at every corner they can get, and McCabe will be on them within a couple of corners. There he is. McCabe is coming on the number 7 machine, so the cue the Jaws music as Harley McCabe closes in on Brinton and Brown, and that was almost close. Brown almost tagging the rear of Brinton through the Beckett's complex.
Yeah, McCabe will be eyeing that battle up, hoping that Brinton and Brown keep messing each other's lines up and messing each other up as we head towards the last lap. Mountsie has a 21.1 second lead, the race leader on the number 4 machine. 1 lap to go when he crosses the line, rounds club corner for the penultimate time, gets tucked up under the bubble, gets on the power, and away he goes for his last lap. Mountsie should be a relatively easy last lap, one of the easiest last laps he'll ever have with his advantage, but nothing is ever easy in these conditions on this circuit. This is the battle though that we're going to focus in on. Look at McCabe, he has closed in then, heading on to the final lap. It's advantage Brinton as we go on to this final lap in the podium fight. Sorry, it's Lucas Brown now ahead of Brinton, and McCabe is right there.
Personal best lap of the race from Harley McCabe in 4th. He's already with them there as they start the final lap. Look at the corner speed he's carrying through Abbey. Will he make a move on Brinton? That would be a little bit audacious if he'd done it there, but he's got the run through Farm and towards Feathers. Late on the brakes, Brinton is looking around the outside of Lucas Brown as we go through the complex of Village as well, but a couple of bike lengths. He's lost a little bit, has Harley McCabe in this battle for 2nd and 3rd, but at the front, as you were saying, Elliot, the easiest laps potentially around the Silverstone. Oh, a bit of a moment there from Lucas Brown. He's lost all the drive onto the Wellington Straight. This is giving Emmanuel Brinton the option of going alongside. He has done, and already, it doesn't matter the stature of Brinton, he's got great straight line speed, and as he come in towards Brooklands, it's Brinton, but Brown, as we saw last lap, round the outside, not this time, and towards Luffield he goes, and he sets up, but McCabe is hoping that these two carve each other up a lot more and takes full advantage, but Brown up the outside of Brinton. Brilliant stuff from Lucas Brown.
Fantastic move then from the number 29. He's Brinton going around the outside at Woodcote once again, like he did in the last lap. I think he's just going to get pushed out onto the pavement. And here comes the number 7 of McCabe up the inside. He does both of them heading into Copse. So the number 7 of McCabe, the title challenger, moves up into second place. What a 20 points this could be for the number 7 with Belford crashing out. We've got half a lap to go here at Silverstone. Mounty is well up the road. We're going to focus in on the number 7 of McCabe as Brinton, I think that is. No, it's Brown going up the inside of Brinton. Brinton's going to fight back. Is he around the outside? No, not quite.
Oh, crazy stuff there from the battle for second, third and fourth. Up the outside, round the outside from Brinton and Brown, but McCabe, he's already off and running for second. He's got a couple of bike lengths advantage as he head down the Hanger Straight, and Sullivan Mounsey will be coming round to finish the race in a dominant fashion. It'll be masterclass from Mounsey and Silverstone. It's McCabe, has it in the bag for now, barring a mistake.
They're not going to be close enough, Liam, to McCabe. I think he's got P2 done and dusted. It is magic from Mounsey here in Silverstone Race 1. A dominant victory for the number 4 machine. What a fine way to start this weekend here at the British Grand Prix. He wonders, where is everyone? Where is everyone? Let's cut back to the picture to see what the podium fight is. It's going to be McCabe. Brown up the inside of Brinton for the final podium spot. Coming round Club Corner. Who's going to win the race to the line? McCabe takes second. That's close, but it is going to be Lucas Brown, the number 29 machine, taking the final spot on the podium. Brinton just misses out, agonisingly misses out in 4th place.
Absolutely brilliant stuff there from Harley McCabe over the last couple of laps. There's Scott McPhee. He started from the back of the grid after some technical issues on the grid. He's up to 11th, so gained 10 places in that race. That's a great little ride there from the rider from Oban in Scotland. So the number 19, as we watched him coming towards the final couple of corners, I'll just read out the rest of the runners and riders in the top 10. Reece Stevenson in 5th ahead of Philip Surwick, and then Ollie Walker, we told you he was good in the wet conditions, ahead of Ryan Frost, Harrison DeSoy and Alfie Davidson in number 8 running at your top 10 as Scott McPhee comes to the line in 11th spot. Great ride there from the weest of McPhee's, the younger cousin of John, as the number 28, and as Eli Banish just coming across the line behind the number 28 of one of the riders. Charlie Barnes, thank you, Elliot. I've completely lost his name. He went from my head there, and I lost him from my timing monitor as well. So Charlie Barnes in 12th ahead of the rest of it. But look at that there. Sullivan Mounsey just talking. He's had almost a full day to think about where the rest of them were after that.
Phenomenal, utterly phenomenal from Mounsey. Equally phenomenal from Belford until he unfortunately chucked it at the scenery at at Farm Corner Turn 2 at the halfway stage, and then of course we saw Mounsey nearly chucking it at the scenery moments later, but he held on, he recovered, he regathered his thoughts, and he eventually won by a whopping 22.8 seconds. That's a huge margin in any form of motorsport, but when all the riders are on the same machinery, of course in the same conditions, on the same tyres, etc., that is absolutely phenomenal from Sullivan Mounsey.
Yeah, potentially the biggest winning margin in British Talent Cup history. It's got to be up there with one of the biggest in the championship. Small but illustrious history already in the 6th season of the British Talent Cup, and Sullivan Mounsey was just brilliant here today. That's his 3rd win of the season for Sullivan Mounsey, and he's really starting to put the pressure on Evan Belford. As we saw in that race, Evan Belford making an uncharacteristic and a mistake that really he should have made. He wasn't put under a ton of pressure from Sullivan Mounsey. This is some of the battle we saw, the great epic battle we saw from Belford and Mounsey throughout the entire race before we unfortunately lost Evan Belford and Farncurve. But side by side, they're just really toying with each other. And here comes the crash from Evan Belford into Farm, just loses the front ever so slightly across the white line and tried to hold it for as long as he could before slipping off, and unfortunately that was his day done and dusted. And only moments later, this moment from Sullivan Mounsey almost ending in disaster. Look at that, the rear end came round. He was lucky not to smash his face in the windscreen as well, but a heart and mouth moment from your race winner, Sullivan Mounsey.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Belford did crash out, of course, for Belford's title hopes as well, but just for the battle that we were seeing, it was such a good battle. And here is the number 7 of Harley McCabe getting the run out of Woodcote, down the old national pitch straight into Cops Corner, and he didn't look back from there. That was on the final lap, claiming P2. This was Mounsey coming over the line to claim 25 points. 3 podiums in a row now for Mounsey, who moves from 3rd into 2nd in the Cup standings. Of course, super pleased with that, and we'll see him look around and wonder, where is everyone? Where's everyone gone?
Sullivan's Super Silverstone Saturday here in the British Talent Cup, and yes, as you said, looking around to see where everyone is, and he had to wait an absolute age to see anyone. Almost by the time he got to Luffield, that's when the rest of the riders eventually closed back in on him.
Just looking further down, we didn't unfortunately see Alexander Rowan after his, well, we're not sure what happened on his sighting lap, but he didn't manage to get round to start the race, so Alexander Rowan will be hoping for better tomorrow afternoon in race 2. Like we said, he was a podium finisher in the Wet in Brands Hatch, so that's an opportunity missed for Alexander Rowan and the Mortimer Racing Alexander Rowan Racing team. But it's joy down in Parc Ferme for Sullivan Mounsey, Harley McCabe and Lucas Brown. Lucas Brown incidentally pipping Emmanuel Brinton by 54 thousandths of a second over the line. McCabe eventually taking 2nd place by half a second.
Yeah, some riders will be distraught with their day here today, including the likes of Evan Belford, but some of them will be overjoyed as Sullivan Mounsey now closes the gap in on Evan Belford and Harley McCabe as well. It looked like he was going to really slip out of title contention, but somehow he managed to salvage 2nd place in what has to be one of the rides of the weekend so far.
Riders getting ready to stand on the famous podium here at Silverstone.
Mounsey's running off
after somewhere, I think.
Yeah, maybe a quick toilet break before he heads up onto the podium. Yeah, he needs it after that ride. He deserves it as well, because it was an absolute masterclass from Mounsey as well. But we can see him continue to run around. That maybe he's just trying to find where the podium might be, but it doesn't matter as well, because he'll be picking up one of the most important race winners' trophies he's ever achieved in his career. There is Harley McCabe, as we mentioned. Another podium for the youngster. 3rd in the championship, 150 points to his name for Harley McCabe, and that will be his 4th podium of the season, and just not far off one equal. Oh, it would be his equal best in the championship as well. As Lucas Brown sees the camera, gives that a big wave. That was another joyous performance from him as he shakes hands with Sullivan Mounsey. Those two put on a cracking battle for the fans at Silverstone. So we've got to really thank the fans for sticking around for this one, because it has been a wet and wild day in Silverstone, and they have been showing how much of a hardy bunch they are by sticking around through all of qualifying and GP, the sprint as well earlier on, the Moto E races, and of course the British Talent Cup to round off this Saturday.
It's been a long day, but it's been a good day, hasn't it? Like I said at the top of the programme, I was a little bit worried that we wouldn't get a massive amount of running, or we'd get several delays because of how wet it was, but it's thanks to the Silverstone surface that we've and the ability for the riders and the Silverstone staff to clear the water, that we've had a full schedule today for the fans to enjoy. We hope you enjoyed that as much as we did here, sat in the commentary box, sat trackside or watching along from home. Then we've got more to come tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock. After the Moto 2 race is done, we'll be back in action for race 2 of round 6 of the British Talent Cup. Not sure to believe the weather forecast. I never do in the UK.
Yeah, it could be changing from hour to hour in the UK, can't it?
Yeah, it does look like it will be a little bit dry tomorrow, so hopefully we will get a dry race and a good battle. But even if it is a wet race, they've just proved that they can put on a proper show as the British Talent Cup riders. They're all just walking towards the famous Silverstone podium. There it is. Who will be standing on there tomorrow in the Moto3, Moto2 and MotoGP classes, I wonder. But today it will be Mountsie, McCabe and Brown standing up there in P1, P2 and P3. What an experience it is for them three to stand on a British Grand Prix podium. The first of many, I hope, for those three and more.
This is the British Talent Cup, as we saw earlier on, in the hands of, in the likes of Scott Ogden in the Moto3 class, is a great proving ground for many young talent coming through as well. As we've seen in the past with the likes of Rory Skinner, your 2018 champion, Scott Ogden followed up in 2019. We've had Casey O'Gorman and of course Johnny Garness going on to do bigger and better things. So they start off here in British Talent Cup and it's a great proving ground.
Here are the final results then from Silverstone. Sullivan Mountsie wins by a whopping 22 seconds over McCabe. Brown completes the podium with Brinson just missed now. Reece Stevenson finished 5th, Sarawak finished 6th, Ollie Walker was 7th, Ryan Frost 8th and Harrison Desoy down in 9th place. Alfie Davidson completed the top 10 with Scott McPhee making great ground up to 11. Charlie Barnes, Elijah Banish, Ronnie Harris and Peter Willis completed the points with Josh Bannister 16th and Charlie Huntington in 17th. Huntingford, sorry, got that wrong. Clayton Edmonds, Daniel Goodman, George Bowes complete the top 20. Ewan Jones, Harrison Mackay and Luca Hopkins were your other finishers. Pilyapenko had to pull into the pits with 2 laps to go. Ben Jolliffe was a non-finisher. Evan Belford there crashing out with 4 laps to go. Drama in the title race. Julian Correa and Alexander Rome also your non-finishers. Here's what it does then for the Riders' Championship. Evan Belford still atop of the table, but the pack have closed in. Sullivan Mountsie up to second, 41 points adrift now, with McCabe dropping 1, but also closing the gap to Belford, 42 points. Manuel Brinson, 66 down now. Correa in 5th place, 84 down now, with Lucas Brown and Ryan Frost and Ollie Walker all making good ground. Srowiak up to 10th, the Polish rider. Rowan slipping down to 11th after unfortunately not being able to start. Stevenson making good ground up 5 places with a good finish. Davidson and McPhee also making up places with Harris. The injured Johnny Garness falling down the order. Now it's time for the fun part for the riders to stand on the British Grand Prix podium. They'll come out one by one, celebrate in front of their mechanics, family and friends down there in Parc Fermé.
Yeah, it'll be one of the most important podiums of their young careers for the top 3. Sullivan Mountsie, Harley McCabe and Lucas Brown standing on top of one of the most iconic podiums in the world as the GP paddock, the Moto GP paddock looks on as well. As we've got one of the team representatives from the Wilson Racing Madison Media coming on to the podium, along with Lucas Brown in 3rd spot. Harley McCabe once again takes 2nd spot in this 2023 British Talent Cup Championship, but your race winner for the 3rd time in 2023 is Sullivan Mountsie, with the biggest smile beaming from ear to ear as he stands atop the podium, as well as Anna Espoleta hands the trophy over to the Wilson Racing team representative here at Silverstone. Next up is Lucas Brown to lift his trophy atop. Big thumbs up there as he knows he's got the pace to repeat this once again tomorrow in race number 2. And Harley McCabe, another trophy to add to his trophy collection as he consolidates his 3rd place in the championship. But moving up to 2nd in the championship after today's race win, 22 seconds ahead of the rest. Sullivan Mountsie is your British Talent Cup race winner.
Okay, so if we can give a big hand in to our final race of the afternoon.
I thought we were going to get the national anthem there, but I don't think, by the sounds of it, we will. They're just aloft the trophies. A good start to the weekend in racing terms for those three. And like I said, we'll be back in action tomorrow afternoon. They can go and enjoy their evenings, debrief with the teams. I was going to say try and find where they can find improvements, but for Sullivan Mountseat, I have no idea where he can improve on that. And if he does, then watch out for the rest of the chasing pack. Conditions might change tomorrow. We will find out tomorrow afternoon. But here is what happened then just a little bit earlier on. Evan Belford starting from pole position and got a great launch to grab the whole shot. Sullivan Mountseat on the number 4 machine, diving just behind him. Quickly ahead as the riders battled it out in the positions below, but it became immediately clear that the duo at the front, Belford and Mountseat, were about to streak clear, and this happens after a couple of laps of them fighting and battling it out. Coming out of Copse Corner, contact at Copse Corner. Luckily both riders kept it upright as the battle continued. Belford did start pulling clear, and then this drama in the title race for Belford. Another DNF, that's 2 in the last 3 races now for the title leader. Good to see he was all okay, and then moments later, just as you seen Belford slip down the road, Mountseat had a huge moment coming out of the loop at turn 4. Luckily he was able to stay on and save it and regather his thoughts and eventually pull clear to a 22-second win. This happened on the last lap in the podium fight. McCabe on the number 7 machine diving past Lucas Brown and Emmanuel Brinton and eventually claiming that second place as the number 4 Mountseat crossed the line with no one in sight behind him. As we pan back, we saw McCabe take in an important P2. That's his 3rd second place finish in a row. Great consistency from McCabe as Lucas Brown just hits Emmanuel Brinton to 3rd place. More tomorrow, we'll see you then.